I'm going to ask for a motion to continue executive session for after the open meeting.
Make that motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'll give full report after the executive session is complete. And I got to get my agenda up. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Dr. Sanquioni?
Under personnel action, we had one resignation at the middle school Portuguese teacher, Anna Parada, and we also had a resignation at Ranger for a lunch recess aide, Amy McCormick. We hired a girls' assistant soccer coach at the high school, Grace Janes.
That's it?
That's it.
All right. Just got to get my agenda. Policy development, item 12A, responsible use of technology staff, first reading. I don't know, Ms. Palish or Ms. Farnwick, if you'd like to gloss this for us.
Well, actually, we really didn't get an opportunity to review this in the policy subcommittee this month, so I'm going to ask Dr. Sanquioni if he can kind of take us, the whole committee, through it.
Sure, absolutely. So both of these policies are, well, they needed to be revised. They're a little dated for what we had, but more importantly, as you know, as you've seen the district goals, moving to one-to-one technology, we certainly need to have a strong policy in place for students. So to create this policy, we collected policies from districts that we know that were one-to-one, that were doing it successfully.
Do you want to move your mic a little closer? I know when I watched the meeting, when I wasn't here, I couldn't hear you.
You couldn't hear me? And
Thank you.
so we collected a lot of policies to review and to Tivertonize. We also looked at best practices from multiple districts in both these arenas. So I feel like we've really created something that's solid and encompasses the issues that could arise in those two arenas. But I'll also turn it to our tech director, Mr. Cannavale, to sort of take you through some of the main components of it, because David was the one who actually wrote the policy for us.
So one of the things that we really concentrated on in both the staff and the student policy was to kind of build it around digital citizenship, which is something that all students are being taught from middle school on up. And we took three of the major points of digital citizenship: respect and protect yourself, respect and protect others, and respect and protect the district equipment. We did that for both the students and the staff. And then we have some subsections that are listed underneath each one of those three major points of the digital citizenship. We also have some information in there regarding the fact that every staff member is given an email address with the Request for Information Act, that those emails can be reviewed by public if someone does request to see any email that you have sent out. With the students, we've put some stuff in there that basically states that you can't do anything, detrimental to the district, anything that, like your Tiverton jerseys, and post online pictures that are lewd or anything like that. You can't mimic a student or something online. You can't record someone without their knowledge. So we kind of encompassed a lot of that. And we did look at different school districts all over New England that currently do have one-to-one, and kind of pulled the stuff out of what they are currently using for their policies.
I wonder, Peter and David, since this is sort of the stepping point off of our one-to-one, and if we couldn't maybe put a little blurb together sort of saying that, and maybe sending this out to parents to have them please take a look and get back to us,
Sure.
And say that, we're currently reviewing the policy. It's a new policy because, as we can see, I mean, it's hard for people to come to our meetings, but I think this is such an important policy, and this is such an important step off to our one-to-one. I wonder if we couldn't just put something quick together and just sort of put it out there. Do you think?
That's a great idea.
And if you want to do that for staff too, that
I was gonna say we should do it
internally,
for the
that's
staff.
great.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we can seek feedback and then have that ready for you in 2 weeks. We'll bring it to a second reading in 2 weeks, and depending on the feedback,
Yeah,
we'll move it.
unless you're kind of uncovering things that need to
Yes.
be addressed.
I do want to point out one statement in the policy on page 2 of the student policy. The very last bullet is, students will not photograph, audio tape, or videotape a fellow student or staff member during the school day without their knowledge. I guess two questions. One, I'm not certain how this fits within the guidelines of using district equipment, because that could, would this also apply to their personal devices?
Don't we already, and we have some policies already governing those things that I think we need to make sure they conform as well. I don't know if you, did you guys have a chance to look at there are
Yes.
policies regarding, and everything is
Yeah.
consistent?
Yes.
All right.
Or it's changed. I mean, that is
Yeah.
not, that was not part of a previous policy, but this is acceptable use for all technology.
So
It's
is-
not just the Chromebook that we're issuing. This concerns all technology.
So this is going to replace 1175, okay.
Yes.
Well, staff one is, and then is the student one replacing?
1175 encompassed both
Both
staff
it
and
did,
students, so
okay.
we wanted to separate them.
Oh, good, okay.
And then we also will be doing an internet filtering policy that will also come up within the next few
Gotcha.
months.
Gotcha.
Yes, Mrs. Fluff?
Yeah, I was talking to David about this just before we came in, and he was saying exactly that, to get it out to the parents, how important that was, that we work with them. You know, as Deb said, that'll be a good idea,
Mm,
so they'll know.
okay. Any other questions or discussion about the policies?
And these are, I think, as of this afternoon, these are
Yes.
online if people want to see them?
Yep.
Okay.
I know.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to ask for a motion to move up item 14A, Spotlight on Success, Teacher of the Year.
Do we have a video?
Yes, we do.
Yay.
So to sort of kick this off, you know, every year we have a very detailed process to select our Teacher of the Year, and if you can hold that one second. This video really encompasses the selection process, the reason behind it, and leads to the person who was selected, who we're fortunate to have here this evening. So I think the video speaks for itself, so I'd like you to see this, and then we'll introduce to you personally our Teacher of the Year.
In 1952, President Dwight D. Eisenhower requested formal recognition for teachers across the country. He saw them as nurturers of the American dream. Initiating the Teacher of the Year award program, President Eisenhower wanted to honor all teachers through the selection of a representative teacher from each state, made of honorees from each district. The District Teacher of the Year is selected through an organized process using school administrators and is based on observations made throughout the year. Past representatives from Tiverton schools attended a special event held in the capital city of Providence, where all district teachers from across the state of Rhode Island participate in a formal ceremony hosted by the Governor and the Commissioner of Education. Teachers conclude the ceremony in a procession of light toward the Providence River, where the river is then illuminated in symbolism toward educators and their contribution to the American way of life. The administration within the Tiverton Public Schools has selected their 2019-2020 District Teacher of the Year, who will represent all of our outstanding educators that teach 21st century learning within our 5 schools. As President Eisenhower envisioned over 60 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, the 2019-2020 Tiverton School District Teacher of the Year is Mrs. Julie Simmons of Pecasset Elementary School, teaching 1st grade.
Yay!
So Julie, I'd like to invite you up to the podium if you'd like to say a few words.
I understand it was very hard to get at you guys at the water fire. They had you like cordon off on their.
Yes, yes, and there was like a 3-page document that you had to sign for the fire marshal, making sure they had certain parameters in which you could do it. But thank you all. It's nice to see you all. It has been awesome already. Just the first month, the water fire was beautiful. The high school asked me to be their keynote speaker for the National Honor Society, which is a privilege. I'm here with you tonight. And it means a lot also because I grew up in Tiverton, so I went to Ranger School, and then I went to Tiverton Middle and Tiverton High. And it's so nice to come back and teach for the district, and after 23 years become Teacher of the Year, so I'm privileged and I love it. I am going to the District Teacher of the Year Conference on October 22nd, so I get to work with all the other District Teachers of the Year, as well as Rhode Island Teacher of the Year, and I get to work with RIDE on innovative things like student-led learning, project-based learning, differentiated instruction, all the new and innovative teaching strategies that I look forward to bringing back to Tiverton. So it's pretty wonderful, and I'm really appreciative, and I thank you, and I'm humbled. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. All right. So back to our old business, item 13A, early risers update. Ms. Donnelly Roach.
Thank you. I'm here today to recommend an adjustment in the rate for early risers. We have had great response, really good feedback, wonderful participation from the families who are currently participating, and currently we have 15 students who attend our 2 locations of early risers 5 days a week, and 6 students who attend 2 or 3 days a week. We have a lot of other families interested, and the cost, according to those families, is a little bit prohibitive. So you have in your packet a proposal for a cost-neutral rate change. I happen to notice that the original budget structure, and of course this is a non-budgeted item, there is no budget for early risers, so we're trying to just keep it neutral in terms of revenue and expenses. And the original proposal that had been developed had an error in terms of the cost of the breakfast, which factored into the total cost. So the actual rate for breakfast is 75 cents less per day per child, and after you add that up, there's a nice cost savings there, which I'd like to pass along to the families, still keeping, again, the result neutral in terms of the budget. And what you have in the proposal is a tiered rate structure, similar to what other child care facilities and daycare centers do across the state, where each day you send your child, the rate gets a little bit lower. So if you send your child for 1 day, the rate would actually not change from the current rate. But as you add days and attend perhaps 3, 4, or 5 days a week, there is a reduction in the daily rate, and obviously a long-term substantial rate drop for families when you look at it by month or by year. So we're hopeful that this will actually help us get more revenue by increasing enrollment and be good for families and kids.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I do have a question. Do we have any accommodation for families with more than 1 child?
We do.
Yes.
I'm sorry that's not reflected here. I kept the rate structure the same as what had been presented to you originally, so that was not included, but we do have a reduction in rate costs for families with more than 1 child.
So what would be the cost moving forward for 2 children full week, just to kind of give us an idea?
Let me think about that. I have that in a note. I have to get back
Oh, I'm
to you.
sorry. I didn't mean to put you on
No,
the
it's
spot.
fine. Pardon me. I have to get back to you on that. I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head. I had it all worked in, and then I thought you wouldn't be able to compare apples to apples, so I made the proposal look parallel to what your original plan had been. The other reduction in expenses is that right now we are staffed properly according to DCYF regulations for childcare, but we have not appointed anyone as a site supervisor. So you'll see in the budget that there were actually 3 rates, and we're only using 2 of those rates, so there's a savings there as well of about $9,000 currently. If and when staffing increases, we would need to identify one of those people as the supervisor. But it's built in and available to us, and we're not using it at this time.
Are you getting monthly sort of budget to actuals, or if that's the right term, but sort of ongoing monitoring of costs just to make sure that we don't go into the
Absolutely.
red?
We're invoicing each family at the beginning of the month. Payment is due by the 15th. And families can access that payment through either My School Box online or via a check. So
Okay.
all of that has been worked out.
All right, thank you.
Excuse me.
Anyone else? There's a motion to approve Mrs. Donnelly Roach's recommendations. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Okay, thank you very much for
Thank
really
you.
making this program work.
Pleasure.
So we are up to item 14B, District Vision, Mission, and Goals. Dr. Sanquioni.
Okay, my pleasure to take you on this journey again.
I know you guys did this last time. You don't have to
You,
go through it again for me if you don't.
Yeah, I don't know if we just want to open this up to more discussion, or?
Yeah, because I know you guys
Um,
did it last time, and I just, one of the things, Peter, I know I have for the one-to-one,
Yep.
how far are we with that?
So we truncated that, and the goal is up there, right there, to go one-to-one
Oh,
grades
thank
5
you.
through 12 this year. We had that in three distinct planning phases. First phase was infrastructure, which we worked on last year. You may recall you allocated some money to up the bandwidth in all of our schools, so the routers, the switches, the servers, all the things I know absolutely nothing about, but we want the internet to work. And so our schools now have the capacity to run devices there, hopefully with reliable service. The second phase of this plan then is to make sure our teachers are trained to use technology in the classroom. So again, first full days in August, 2 full days of training. The first early release day was centered on that, and the next remaining 6 days are based on that. So they're training throughout the entire year. We created it like a course. So it's all about, we call it personalized blended learning, but it's essence, how to use technology in the classroom to deliver instruction. Our teachers are coming back to us and telling both Principal Ashley and Principal Craven that, yes, we're ready. We're ready to go. The Chromebooks are here. The easiest part of this whole process is to purchase the Chromebooks, and they've been in classrooms. So teachers get to use them on a daily basis, yet our students don't take them home. So as a result of that feedback from our staff saying that they're ready to go, the last phase of this is to meet with all of our staff, with our parents, and for our principals to meet with our students. So we're actually meeting this Thursday to map that process out. And I would say to you, within the next 30 to 45 days, we will collect those Chromebooks that are in all of our classrooms and issue them out to every student in 5th through 12th grade.
So what are we doing to communicate with parents? Because that's my concern is that,
So actually, I'm just going to call
Oh,
point
I'm
of
sorry,
order.
go ahead.
This was brought to us for approval, so I'm going to ask for a motion to approve it, and
Oh.
then we can proceed with discussion?
Yes.
Okay,
Second?
all right, so, sorry, I just
Okay.
had to get a motion on the floor
Nope,
before
that's
we
fine.
got too much into the weeds.
So, and I don't know what the plan is. I know, and sometimes no matter how much we try to feed people information, they're still not going to hear it. But what kind of is the plan to?
Well, the
like,
plan
kinda-
is that our student's not going to be issued a Chromebook unless the parent meets with us. So we recognize we need to run
Oh,
multiple sessions, both evening,
Perfect.
morning, and during the day, and we will do that. That's how committed we are to this, because it's important, it's incumbent for the parents to understand it. This is an expensive device that we want the student to use. We also recognize it can be used in the home. We want the parents to understand the safety and security behind it, the firewalls, the fact that it has a GPS device, the fact that they don't have internet, that we can connect them with really low-cost internet services, but also the responsibility of taking care of the
Yeah.
machine. And there is a role there, and there is, if things are abusive, then we want to partner with you about making sure the machine is compensated for. So there's a lot of information to share with parents along with that acceptable use policy we brought forth to you here today. We also want to even get, the more important part of it, the educational part of it, is to explain to parents the rationale for giving a student. So, to again increase their ability to read online and process information online, to understand that, this is the world of work and the world of higher education, and that, we're truly trying to prepare your students for that moment when they graduate, and we feel this is the best way to do that.
So these are going to be done through meetings?
Yeah, through parent meetings, right.
So your administrators and your tech team are just going to,
Yeah.
okay, good.
And when do those meetings start?
Well, we're meeting Thursday to map them out.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Got it.
So our goal is to make sure that the meetings are completed and our Chromebooks are in the hands of our student sometime aggressively in November, but, sometime before we break for the Christmas break.
Okay.
So these are more than $10.
A lot more.
What is the district going to do to provide physical protections for these
So
units
there's a
going
sleeve
home?
that they all go in, and so the students will be issued the Chromebook with the sleeve, a protective sleeve, that then the sleeve and the Chromebook can fit into their backpack. The machine itself has Gorilla Glass, and it's high quality, and it's, as sturdy the machine that we could purchase. And again, part of getting into one-to-one after many districts have gone there is we've been able to talk to polices
Yeah.
and say, yeah, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to purchase, the insurance and all that that goes with it.
So there is insurance on the actual devices
Right.
themselves?
There's a warranty, I think, is a better word, and I'll look to Mr. Conover to explain that warranty a little deeper.
So there is a warranty that's backed by HP that we did purchase for each device that the students will be taking home. So that gives us 3 years of full coverage on them. But we do, and we will go over with the parents, that they can buy optional insurance for the device if they choose to, and that would be if the device is lost or stolen. So that will be something that we will be going over with them as well.
Is the expectation that the parent or the family accepts liability for replacement if something untoward happens, like they drop it into the Secana River or such thing?
We're structuring it in a way that it's more about abuse and not accidents. So we understand that accidents will happen, and we built in a system where we have loaners in those instances. Excuse me. So the way we're looking at it, if it's an accident, we're going to own it, and hopefully it'll be under the warranty, and we'll be protected for 3 years. But if it's abusive, if it's something a kid's just throwing somewhere or dropping or deliberately doing it, then we will explain to parents. We will ask for your help in replacing that machine.
What has your experience been talking to other schools? Did people pretty quickly get up to speed with students and parents with their responsibilities?
Yeah, there's usually a lot of excitement to start, as you can probably predict, and both students and parents, and then it just becomes a way of life. I mean, it becomes such an important piece of their learning. It replaces textbooks, it replaces notebooks, it replaces a lot of things that are in their backpack. And one of the things we've learned is that by issuing a device to a student, that once this program is in full swing, the device you receive, let's say freshman year, is your device till you graduate.
okay.
So we're going to let the kids decorate it. We're going to let them put their music on it. And that's one of the things we've learned is when kids take ownership and if they feel like it's theirs, there's a greater probability they'll take good care of it.
Any music?
I'll let you judge that.
Well, toward that end, I think it'd be important to make explicit the link with the policies that we're
Exactly.
talking about.
That's why we bring in the
adopting.
policies to
Right.
you now.
Okay, and, well, even in those meetings and elsewhere.
Oh, yes.
Yes, Mrs. Black?
So this has been a long process, and it has to be, and it has to be thoughtful. Horace Mann said that education was a great equalizer, and it was. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't, because as my children came through here, the music teacher's going to laugh. My oldest daughter came home and said, I have to take keyboarding. I said, they can't make you take music. She had to take keyboarding, which was the typing. That was how it all started, right? So then we went along, and we had all the stuff. We had all the computers and the printers and everything, so everyone came to our house, and they'd come over, and they'd type a name and push a button, and it would come out. Pictures and everything, all printed up, they'd clip it together. I wouldn't let my kids do that. I said, that's like cheating. So I made them do it the way they used to do it, go to the library, put references. So their friends were getting A's, and they were getting B's because it didn't flow. So that didn't work out. My point is, everyone didn't have this stuff at home. Some kids didn't even have a pen and paper, so it was not equal. And this is what we're coming to. This is very exciting. Everyone will have access and opportunity. So when the General Assembly said, we're going to have homework done at home and snow days. I said, you can't do that, because everyone doesn't have access to, some people don't have that in their home, which they can't believe. They can't pay for Cox, so different places have, you can get that. You can have, I'm so excited about it. This is going to be so wonderful. And they are truly digital natives now. We know that. The 2- and 3-year-olds are doing things with my phone that I don't know. I didn't know how to flashlight. They put it on. I said, where'd that come from? So anyway, we have to get all this, and it's very exciting. I'm so excited that we're doing it, and we're doing it. And I thank David for all his thoughtfulness and the different policies, and the twins are home waiting. They're very excited, and Mr. Michael Black to get there, so thank you very much. It's great.
So David, the warranty program, was that something we built into the budget this year? Yeah.
That is correct,
Okay,
yes.
Thanks.
Have you given any consideration to how you'll handle a parent or guardian who declines?
It's not an option. This is part of our educational program. It's like issuing you an algebra book.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause
I-
you can't say, I'm not going to take algebra and I'm not going to use that book.
I mean,
so.
honestly, the question was posed to me about a week ago by,
Yeah.
by
I
a
was asked that
community
question
member.
by a student today.
Were you?
Well, I guess that
These are
will
the new
be an
books.
interesting discussion if they still do, I guess.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So, again, we've walked through
So that's
these visions and goals already. I don't know if people want to
What's
take
the
them
second
up one by one.
Yeah,
The
let's just
literacy
do that.
program?
Is
Okay.
there any more on this one? Elaine, Sally? Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know, are there questions about number 2?
No.
From anybody on the committee?
Nope, I'm good with 2.
Okay. Go to 3, bullying prevention and intervention.
Oh, wait, gotta get to it, okay. How are we measuring success
On this one
on
here?
this one? Like the 1-to-1 I get, the wit and wisdom I get, but what, is there a, because if you have goals, you want to be able to measure the success,
Or
but,
they're talking about building a program that they're going to come back to us with which they will come
I mean,
back
certainly,
to us.
long-term, it's about reducing the reporting of bullying
yeah,
incidents in the
that's
school.
what I was
Right.
getting at.
But
yes.
in the initial parts of it, though, it's going to be about receiving the information and getting kids to provide us with information so that we can address it. And so, having done this a few other times, I've seen actually an uptick in what gets reported because more people are willing to share information with you. So you rise, then you put in interventions, and then you drop.
Perfect, that's what I was looking for.
It's an
Yep.
observation box.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions on 3? So we can go to 4, professional learning communities. This is probably the most detailed
Yeah.
curricular one. Any questions on the part of anybody on the committee?
Well, Dr. Sanguino, I'll put you on a spot. Where do we stand with the implementation of PLCs at this point?
Yeah, so we've implemented them, and thank you again for your support on both the structure of them and leadership positions that you also approved at the elementary level to enhance these. So the way our early release days are developed, the teachers receive, it's a 3-hour segment, and they receive 2 hours of training. So this year it's wit and wisdom for our elementary and middle school ELA teachers, and for all of our other teachers at the middle school and high school level, it's the blended learning using technology. So they get the 2 hours of training, and then they work, and a PLC is just simply a term for, let's get together with the people who do the same job as you do. So all of our first grade teachers meet, our fourth grade teachers meet, our middle school social studies teachers meet, our high school math teachers meet. And the idea behind it is, okay, let's first talk about what we learned today, how we can apply it in our discipline, the specific things we do. But then long term, it's about looking at what we teach, having a guaranteed and viable curriculum, then looking at assessment data and talking about what worked in your class that you can share with your colleagues. So if I gave an Algebra 1 assignment and 90% of my class did exceptionally well, but I'm a teacher at that gave the same assessment and maybe 50% of my kids did well. Well, what did that one teacher do different than the other teacher? What was the depth and breadth? How was technology used? I mean, that's, in essence, once this gets rolling a year or two from now, that's going to be the greatest PD we can offer. Teacher to teacher, talking about strategies, methodologies, use of technology, and so forth. So it's in place, the structure's there, the leadership is there, and it's rolling.
Yeah, I will say, I know, not to put you on the spot, is he here? Oh, Manny. Manny brought this up. Almost every year I can remember how important it is for the teachers to be able to be together and to be able to learn together and talk together and have that time. So I think this in particular for our staff is a really exciting goal. Good spot.
I think one of the premier things that's happened is we've got teachers leading these sessions. So there's education, the elementary instructional leads, and they've been doing fantastic. We've had one lesson, I mean, one session so far, and people are really embracing it.
Fantastic.
Okay. Ready to move to 5? Social emotional learning.
Dr. Secchione, on this one, you mentioned that our staff will develop a comprehensive K through 12 program. Is this a committee of staff that's developing this program? Is there someone that's charged with the development of said program?
I wouldn't call it a committee. It's what that group of educators who, all of our specialists in those arenas, so our social workers, our adjustment counselors, our guidance counselors, our nurses, that's their PLC. And that's been their goal this year, to kind of work with on this. So we have a lot of great practice throughout the district, all 5 schools. We just need to make it consistent, tie it all together, and then figure out what we need to add in.
So it feeds into the PLCs?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on 5? So then to 6. Graduation rate.
So this, as a general goal, is fine. Do we have any specifics as far as, well, FY20, we want to move up 5%, I mean.
Well, you know, the goal is 100%, right? And,
right.
Yeah, so we've been averaging anywhere between 89 and 93%, correct me if I'm wrong, Principal Ashley. And so that means that, you know, most of our classes are around 100, 120 students, and I would say then that means anywhere between 8 and 12 students are not making it. And we just need to analyze those reasons. And there's certainly a myriad of things there, some that are correctable and some that are sometimes out of our control. So we've had our first great meeting with Principal Ashley and his team there, and we've talked about some initiatives of using more online courses for credit recovery. We've talked about maybe offering some evening classes for English language arts and math for maybe kids who just can't get here or don't want to be here or things of that nature. And a great idea that Principal Ashley came up with was we have this great work studies program, but we haven't been given credit for it. And so we need to give credit for it and tie in some academics to that. So those 3 initial ideas that we came up with, but we also met with the guidance counselors and had them go through their caseload. And so we heard about every student in the current high school that's off cohort. And so we're able to process what's best for each one of those kids. We need a personal learning success plan for these students. And, you know, so we're processing it. We're putting things in place. And, you know, over time, the goal is 100%.
And is
Whatever it takes.
graduation rate, define that? Is it the 4, it's not just the 4-year, it's the 5-year, it's the summer school, it's the, what are we considering graduation?
You want to take that?
This, yeah. This, so there's a good question, because there is a difference between a
Thank you.
4, 5, and 6-year cohort. So this, our goal is a 4-year graduation.
Okay.
The state does, you know, have separate categories, and our rates obviously go up for 5 and 6-year, which we always are working towards, but again, ultimately the goal is.
So this goal, you're looking at the
4
4-year.
years. Yeah,
Okay.
The percentages that Dr. Secchione mentioned were in regards to the 4-year
Okay.
cohort.
And that's what gets reported. So when these come out and all the papers and every district's lined up, it's the 4-year
Okay.
cohort.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion on the district vision and goals? Goals, really.
Slide 3.
So, thank you very much, Dr. Sanquioni. I was
So I
quite
want-
impressed with everything overall. Sorry.
No, slide 3 of that same presentation.
Slide 3.
Yeah, I assume as we transition to the next item on the agenda, which is school improvement plans, I want to sort of tee that up for you here before our principals present. So slide 3, Dave. So right here, we talk about how the district goals were created, and our principals do the same thing. So they look at all the data from their schools, all the multiple sources that I've already showed you there, and they develop their goals based on the achievement of the students in their schools. But the key thing is what we're trying to do is align the district. So the school improvement plans you're about to see are going to look eerily familiar to the district goals. And our teachers are being asked to write their student learning objectives connected to the school improvement plan. It's connected to the district goals. So we align the districts. So when we have budget requests, they're aligned. When we have professional development requests, they're aligned. So we don't go in 500 different directions. We're going in one direction.
Okay.
So I'm pleased to have these people present to you. They work really hard on this. They work hard with their staff. So I don't know what the batting order is, but
So I would think they should, eerily should look similar.
Right.
We actually have a motion we need to vote on.
yeah, you could vote the district goals, so that would make their goals also legitimate, I guess.
So, all those in favor
How about a
of
motion?
approving? There is a motion. There is a
Oh,
motion.
we already did the I apologize.
We didn't vote on it.
I know, so that's why I'm asking for a vote. So all those in favor? I actually do know how to do this job, so. All right. Now, Dr. Sanquioni.
All right,
back
so
to
I've
you.
teed them up for you, and,
Well, we have high school first in our.
all right, there we
in
go.
our
Principal
packet,
Ashley.
so I'm going to pick it for you. Go ahead.
Yeah, you probably need a mic, Chris, so, or use the one there.
Thank you. So, yes, in regards to what Dr. Sanquioni talked about, our school goals aligning with the district goals, and that begins with our professional learning communities, our PLCs. I put this slide first because we view that as the foundation of all of our work. And first and foremost, that's about student learning. And this, as Dr. Sanquioni and Mr. Cabral mentioned, around teachers meeting in collective areas in terms of our math and our English teachers meeting so that they're focused on what are our students learning, they take collective responsibility for that, and that they look at the results and the evidence. So there's that combination of the professional experience, this is what I'm seeing in the classroom with, these are the results of the assessments. Let's put all that together as a team and figure out where are the successes, because there are always successes, and then, ooh, these are some areas we need to work on. And so that process, it's about that iterative process, is the backdrop for these goals here. Next slide, please. So a note about and credit to our school improvement team. So we have Ms. Cusimano, science teacher, Ms. Carrero, our math department chair, Ms. Ansamo, a social studies teacher, Ms. Monkovich, a parent, Ms. DeSantis, our special education department chair. And just a note in terms of in regards to the goals you're about to see have been discussed at our faculty meetings. They were reviewed by this school improvement team, and then I also have a monthly student advisory committee where we discuss these goals too to gather feedback. Next slide, please. So goal number one was centered on writing. And we've been focusing on writing because, as Dr. Sanquioni has talked about, we know that when students are writing, they're learning. They have to think about the content. They have to think critically about what they know and how it connects to what the learning objectives are. And so the goal is stated as writing every day in all classrooms. And the degree and the amount of writing varies. So we've been spending a lot of time this school year actually in not only our PLCs, but in the faculty meetings to say, okay, how does that look like in a math classroom versus an English classroom where you might expect it versus a social studies classroom? And it varies. And obviously in an English classroom, it might be a little more formalized, structured in terms of a longer essay, but we reviewed samples at October's faculty meeting where a math teacher shared how they were working on a proof and the students were just writing a couple sentences about the analytical process they went through but they wrote that down to solve that proof. So the teacher, this gets back to the idea of the PLCs and the evidence, the teacher can see, not only do they have to kind of guess, right, what's in the student's mind, they can see it down on the paper. And so that if they see something that's awry, the teacher can address it immediately, reteach if needed, or if it's just a simple check-in with the student. And so you'll see that in the extension of CRIMS. This is a goal we've been working on since last year as writing across the curriculum, and that the measurable aspect of this is the simple, effective, common formative assessments. And that word formative is just the idea that this writing assessments or prompts, they're not at the end of the unit. They're not after everything's been done, 2 months down the road. It's every week or two, as you're doing the instruction, you're just checking in. How are the students doing? And you're looking at the results to say, oh, okay, all the students are on track, we're looking good. Or, oh, I see a couple students here. I need to go and meet with those couple students after school tomorrow, or do a quick mini lesson to make sure they're caught up to speed. And looking at that across the departments. All right, next slide, please. Goal 2, ensuring all students learn and practice rigorous higher order thinking skills. So we know that critical thinking is not only important for high school, but no matter what our students are going to be going on to doing post-secondary school, workforce, military, the advancement of technology, they need to think critically about what they know and what they're reviewing. And so we put this in the context of our SAT, PSAT results, not that this is the only assessment that we're using to analyze and assess our students' critical thinking skills, but it's a standardized assessment that we can compare our school with other schools in Rhode Island and obviously in other states, and that we recognize this is an area we can do some work on. We have pockets of success where we're doing a little bit better on, particularly actually in our writing and reading, but in the mathematical thinking, in that logical sequence test, that's one area that as a school we're looking at. And so we're putting that in the context of our SAT and PSAT results. And again, in terms of the kind of day-to-day practice, this is about how teachers pose questions to students so that they're not necessarily always asking, well, tell me this particular, what is this fact? Or what was that recall question of, well, when was that, particular date or that person you need to know? But more of, if it's a history lesson, how might this have changed the course of the war if this action was taken? Give me 2 predictive steps that might have happened as a result of this step. So the idea of taking it to a different level and then incorporating that writing piece into it. All right, next slide, please. So goal 3, articulate a rigorous content-based curriculum, and including essential questions, concepts, content, and skills. And this gets at the idea of the one-to-one initiative, actually, and our blended learning, that the activities and the resources and the learning strategies that our teachers are using is shifting as we're shifting with the technology. So as we're looking at that technology use, we want to make sure that we're feeding that into our curriculum and that it's all seamless and aligned. And so our teachers are working on looking at their scope and their sequence, looking at their essential questions, the assessments first in terms of, again, looking back at that writing, but then how is the technology piece incorporated in that, especially in regards to the instructional aspect, the day-to-day instruction, and what pieces are we using the technology and what pieces do we still want students interacting in small group problem-based work. And so the goal here is in regards to ensuring that our curriculum has the common format across all areas, including the technological practices I talked about, and the common formative assessments that link back to that writing goal and the first goal. All right, next slide, please. And then our last goal is really a reiteration of Dr. Sanchiani's goal of the graduation rate. So we recognize we're not at 100% right now, and that's what we need to shoot for. And so the stated goal is we're going to continue to monitor, communicate, and develop those personalized plans for all of our at-risk students or struggling learners. And so as Dr. Sanchiani mentioned, we've already gone through all grade levels, all students, and we're defining at-risk as a number of areas, but in particular, are they currently off cohort, meaning behind in their credits, for whatever the reason is. And so typically each student has a different reason for why they're off credit. And so then it's looking at what strategies and interventions do we need to implement to make sure we get 100% of our students on that stage. And so Dr. Sanquiani talked about the possibility of the evening courses. We've been looking at this work-study program. We've also implemented a credit recovery program. This is one key piece where for those students that don't have the credits, that they have an opportunity during the school year. They don't have to wait any longer, that if we can make it fit in their schedule, just as part of their learning program, they're taking their courses and this credit recovery option so that by the end of the school year, the goal is they're back on track. They're back on with their regular cohort students. And so there's also an added component here in terms of the graduation rate connected to the district's social emotional goal, because unfortunately some of our students, it's a social emotional challenge where accessing the curriculum and getting to school on a regular basis is a real challenge. For, again, particular reasons vary, but ultimately it's that social emotional piece. And so working with the support staff to support those students is incorporated into this. Okay.
Questions?
Yes.
It's not a question as much as a comment. I do appreciate very much that we sort of have a spectrum of goals here, that we have goals that are going to help students in need, but we also have goals that are going to help some of our highest achievers. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yes.
If I could ask a question with regard to procedure now, thank you, Mr. Ashley, you've done a great job presenting this to us.
Thank you.
I have to assume that you have some very detailed information behind all of this. Will we be expecting to see some kind of a wrap-up at the end of the school year to, let's talk about the successes, let's talk about some of the things that maybe didn't go so well, and how we can turn that into a positive for the coming school year?
Absolutely, we can do that, and this is something I work with the principals on as far as their evaluation process, and they understand that these are the things we talk about at our meetings. So at the end of the year, we can certainly come back with the same goals and give you a status update on what was achieved.
Great. Anyone else? Elaine? Stella? Thank you very much, Chris. It's a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
So as it's been stated that some of these goals are going to be redundant and repetitive, and there's purpose behind that. If you look at the first goal for Tiverton Middle School, last year, if you recall, the goals that I presented really were about setting up the systems so that we can roll out the goals that I currently have before you today. So we talked about professional learning communities and how essential they are, and we all know that within a school district, that work needs to happen more frequently than it has occurred in the past. Right now, our teachers are able to meet in a 6-day rotation 3 times, 3 55-minute blocks. And a lot of deep work is happening. They're having great discussions. They're calibrating. They're looking at the STAR data. So this goal that Dr. Sanquiani started with, and the work that's being done in our school and the professional development that our teachers are getting through the Solution Tree program will ensure that we're effective as we roll forward, with the understanding that ultimately we're looking at data and we want to improve our student performances in mathematics and English language arts on our STAR data. So we also addressed common writing assessments. Last year, again, I had to set up the system to make sure that we had generated an understanding in our co-curricular and content areas of what writing looks like and what good writing looks like, and setting up the rubric. So without having alignment across the middle school, rubric alignment, it was difficult to really have all of the teachers understand what they were looking for. So last year, we spent time looking at different rubrics. Essentially, when we adopted the ELA curriculum, clearly that's the rubric that we are using. And then we took those rubrics and implemented them in the social studies, science, co-curriculars area to make sure that, and even in the area of mathematics, to make sure that the student work was, that we were asking students to produce was reflective of rubric alignment. So we spent the time, we have the system. This year, we have 4 assessments in each co-curricular and content area, common assessments throughout the entire year. Again, with the understanding that as we move forward, our writing will improve. The more you write, the better you get. It's that simple. Blended learning, clearly, that's where our district is headed. So you think about blended and personalization and personalizing of the curriculum. Our teachers are getting a lot of professional development in this area. I'm building a catalyst team within my school so that I can push the teachers a little bit further. I feel as though they need a considerable amount of professional development in this area, and if I could in-house, you know, have them have more success, then I think we'll be able to reach this goal more quickly. So all of the, Dr. Sanquioni talked about the teachers aligning their goals with mine, and mine being aligned with his. So the professional growth goals for many of my teachers is to become Google Level 1 certified educators, so that they can then train teachers in this school to become Google Level 1 certified educators and use the platform more efficiently in the course of their delivery of content and curriculum. And finally, social emotional learning, as we know, is a hot topic and one in which we cannot ignore. So all of the teachers in our school are working towards implementing a monthly social emotional kind of like a force. So for example, we did we participated in Start With Hello for the month of September. October 7th, we stopped out bullying. And we're going to have a monthly goal, and we have a committee of teachers to work on that, really to promote kindness and get the kids to understand that, you know, as a school, as a district, we need to pay more attention to how we treat one another. And so ultimately, long term, we're looking to decrease, obviously, behavior write-ups within our building. But the bullying, obviously, is always an issue, especially in middle schools. So we want to make sure we're cognizant of that and ensuring that the students have a safe space and place to really discuss what they're feeling and know that they have someone they can go to at any time to look for assistance should they need it. And that's it. Those are my goals. You're welcome.
Questions from Ms. Craven?
I ran across something I've never heard of before, and I apologize if you spoke to it. I don't remember hearing you. Build habits of mind. Build habits of mind.
Yeah, so when you're talking about habits of mind, it's really talking about the teachers speaking the same language, right? And talking about perseverance and what that means when a child needs to persevere through a task. And when you build those habits and everyone's speaking the same language, then eventually the students will understand and be more committed to their learning. What I've experienced, and when we talked about the writing assessments, right? Last year I would do walkthroughs, right? Perform walkthroughs and go into classrooms. So I went into a science classroom and they were calling a science writing assignment a CER, claims, evidence, reasoning. And then I would go into a social studies classroom and they would call their writing assignments a constructed response. And then I would go into an ELA classroom and they would call it an expository piece of writing. So how confusing is that for our students, right? So that's when I speak about habits of mind. It's like really training the kids. And through that it's training the teachers to adopt those habits so that they in turn can teach with those same habits, and that will help our students long term.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you.
Spot, Spavo, anything else?
You're welcome.
Great, thank you, Sue. Good work.
I like to see, it's interesting to see how your 4 goals translate similar but differently in each building. It's a very, I appreciate you guys coming before us. It's a very interesting to watch that.
Lower it a lot.
Or to see it.
Okay. You have emotional support with each other?
We're jointly presenting our goals.
Elementary's one program.
One program,
together.
2 buildings, right?
Very happy to see that.
Thanks. So first we're going to present our unified goals. And for the first one, it is reading and writing. And it's dealing with wit and wisdom ELA curriculum. So how that looks over in our buildings is all of the principals will be doing walkthroughs. We're also supporting our teacher leaders when they do the PLC meetings. And we're also watching our, and we're also monitoring the common formative assessments and summative assessments. We're meeting with classroom teachers at the building level. I know that we're doing weekly meetings with our teachers to assess and support them with the implementation of the new curriculum, see where they are, how are they, do they need any assistance with anything. And we're also looking at data analysis whenever we do any of the common assessments. So that's with wit and wisdom. The next common, we have 2, is the instructional rotations. So this is how elementary does blended learning. So with this, all of our teachers within instructional rotations will be using not only the Chromebooks, but also the iPads. So at different times, they might be 4 or 5 different stations within a classroom, and students will be in different stations, and they will rotate between the different stations using different technology to do, whether it's they'll be on Lexia or whether they'll be on different software at different times. So, and I know it looks that way in my building during math and reading blocks, and also Mr. Cabral, same thing. Yep. Then we go to our buildings, and Fort Barton School has 2 goals. So the first goal that we have at Fort Barton School is in math. And the reason why we're doing a math goal is because this year we're really focusing a lot on literacy. And what we did, I have a really, really large and vibrant school improvement team. I have 7 teachers on my, and 2 parents on my school improvement team, and I am so grateful for that. I mean, it's a great team. And we looked back at our STAR assessment scores for the past 3 years. We looked at RICAS scores, we looked at our dynamic learning scores in math, and we saw that there is still room for improvement. And we want to make sure in a year where we're really focusing so much on literacy that we don't forget also we need to keep on differentiating, and we need to keep on focusing also on math. So that's why we created a math goal. So we're going to keep on making sure that we're monitoring math, that we keep on focusing on differentiating in math. And we'll also be focusing on common assessments and formative assessments. And then our last goal in Fort Barton School is our PBIS, our Positive Behavioral Intervention System. We began this last year, and this is our 2nd year in implementation. And I am super excited to say it is going wonderfully. Last year we gave out lots of stars, And every single week we do a drawing. We now have a PBIS lead council that meets, and actually our PTO this past week, and I have a conversation and coffee with the principal, and that was brought up, and people were suggesting different prizes, and it's really brought together a lot of different people. Different community organizations are donating different prizes for this, for the kids, and incentives, and we see a lot of kids, they're understanding what behaviors are expected, and it's really helped change the culture in our school. So we put this as another goal because we want to keep on improving.
Good evening. As we move on to Ranger School, we have a school improvement team. So we had 3 teachers, Mrs. Leary, Mrs. Lawson, and Mrs. Curtis, as well as 2 parents, Mrs. Helburn and Mrs. Vicuna, that I met with to establish our 2 individual goals, as well as we have the 2 district goals that we're also working on. So at Ranger, we're concentrating on math with a look of a 5% increase in our scores from our STAR data. We give STAR, which is a district assessment that's given 3 times a year. At the end of when we finish with that assessment, we have data meetings. From the data meetings, that's where we break down the individual students, students that need assistance. So those are the students that first thing they would go into either remedial math, they get some extra help, or the teachers themselves would be looking at individual students where they can help during the morning intervention block. So we're looking for a 5% increase from our beginning data to the end of the school year. Our second goal was we wanted to continue with our science. With the new wit and wisdom, the teachers are really working hard to get that program up and running, but it's very time consuming. So we have to be very cognizant of time and making sure that we still get our science program as part of our core curriculum. I meet with the teachers once a week during our common planning, and we map it out as far as where we're going. We want to make sure that we don't lose track of our science, but it's an excellent program. The students are doing very well in it, and we're looking to improve. There's a small group of students that are having trouble with our science kits, and we're looking at those students to see how we can help improve their use of the kits and get them more involved in the science program. So those are the 2 goals that we established for Ranger this year.
Something he said, are we being mindful of that you said the wit and wisdom is taking a long time, that if we get to a point where it really is taking a long time, that we're just mindful of not overburdening or not over wanting?
Right. So in that, when we first started, there was a pacing guide for wit and wisdom. One of the first things the superintendent said, because teachers are working hard. They're staying late. They're spending a lot of time. And a lot of the teachers are saying it's like they're a first-year teacher again. They're doing a lot of planning. So we're not so much worried about getting all 4 modules in. The modules they teach, we want to make sure that it's done with fidelity and it's done well.
Perfect.
So if we get 3 modules done this year,
we're happy with that.
Right. And it's the same. Whenever we start a new program, we went through the same growing pains when we went to our new math program.
Yeah.
We went through the same growing pains when we went through our new science program.
Okay.
So we're listening. We're listening to the teachers every day, and we're all working together.
Any other questions?
We have Picasso?
Not tonight.
And
We'll
Picasso.
wait for, you want to wait for?
Yes,
Can we-
thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you, you
Okay.
guys. That was great.
Thank you very much. Great work. All right.
Before we move on, I do have a high-level question, and this has to do with the school improvement teams. I was taking notes as we went. It seems every school has a school improvement team. We've heard, at least on the school committee level, we've heard very little about this, how these teams are put together, and certainly with the changes in legislation in Rhode Island, those teams will become more front and center as we go into 2020. You know, we have one parent at the high school, 4 parents at the middle school, 2 and 2 at the elementaries that we heard from tonight. Is there any kind of goal as a district for us to have steady parental involvement? And how are the parents knowing about any opportunities to serve on these teams?
I'll let our principals address that. Each one probably does it.
So I'll start in terms of, from the high school, there was actually a parent, I didn't want to put it on the list, but there was a parent, I'm sorry. There was a parent who is planning on attending but couldn't make the September meeting, and so I did leave him off, but I do anticipate adding him. In terms of the communication and open, so all faculty are invited. And I actually had a couple faculty members also that couldn't make the September faculty meeting or the school improvement team meeting, but are anticipating coming. And then it's the same with parents. So in my updates, I'll put a note in there about the school advisory or improvement team meeting. We welcome parents. And sometimes parents I have some parents actually that they'll come for a couple months and then they'll take a couple breaks. And so I did not include them because, again, I'm not sure of their commitment to this piece.
How do you, well, I'll let you guys go through and then I'll ask my question.
So essentially, the school improvement team I have this year is the advisory board I had last year. And so last year I did an all-call to parents through a communications newsletter that I sent out, asking if anyone was interested in joining my advisory board to please reach out to me. So the difficulty in feedback I have received from parents is more about the time of day and the difficulty in attending meetings. And so I do have a lot of interest. However, not everyone can leave their job at 2:30 in the afternoon. And so if I don't have the meeting at 2:30 in the afternoon and push it to 4, then the teachers won't be there. So it's a balance, and we welcome anyone who wants to join, but the commitment, as you said, the commitment moving forward, the school improvement team is going to be much more involved. So you want individuals on that team who are committed to being involved, and you want people there who can be there, essentially, because if you're making decisions that impact the school, as the school improvement team will be making decisions like that, then you need them to be there at the meetings, so you don't have to play catch up every time.
And certainly consistency becomes very important in that regard.
Correct.
I know it was the very first exposure I had to any kind of volunteering was a school improvement team, and no, it wasn't. It was.
No, mine was with Susan.
Oh, okay.
That was on my team.
Mine was with Mr. Favor, bless his heart. And I was the only parent, the only person
right.
actually, participating. So, it's something that always has stuck in the back of my mind, that these school improvement teams are so important to keep the conversation going about the overall goal to improve and have the best possible schools we can.
Right, and they're going to be a part of the process. Like, our first meeting, I showed them these goals. We went over them together because their input is key in making decisions that impact, obviously, the school, the instruction, the students, the social emotional piece. So it is prudent that they're there. It is essential that we reach out and try to get more people to join these teams, but we do run into those obstacles.
Thank you.
Did you have something, Suzette? No, you're good. Okay.
I would like to add, as far as what we do at Ranger, during our first meeting with the teachers during orientation, there's three groups that we ask teachers to volunteer for. So it's the school improvement team, the superintendent's advisory council, and the PTO. Now, the PTO, we have a very active PTO, and I attend those PTO meetings. That's where I get my volunteers for the school improvement team on the parent side. They're active. They come to meetings every month. They're part of the school environment, and that's where we get the volunteers. And I also tell people they can join at any time. They don't have to be a member, right from the get-go. If someone has an idea, they want to bring it to the school improvement team, they're more than welcome to come. And I usually bring those ideas up at PTO meetings every month. We have those monthly meetings.
So in my weekly newsletter, whenever I have a sit team meeting scheduled once a month. I always put a little invitation at the bottom. They're open meetings, people can attend. And then I have a small school, but I have a teacher from every single grade level, 2 special educators, and both of my specialists, the reading specialist and math specialist, both come to every single sit meeting.
That's great.
So it's full representation. So whenever we make decisions dealing with children, we have full representation, and we make sure that every single child has their needs met. And we also have 2 parents in addition. So it's a very good team we have.
No, I applaud all of you. I think in having the teachers actively involved with this is key too. And it does sound like you've all got that commitment. So, I mean, that's first and foremost. All great.
So it's not the first time I've encountered the issue of sort of if we have something during a school day, parents are generally working. If we have something at night or, sort of at a different hour, it's difficult to get staff, understandably don't necessarily, have to go home and do stuff, grade papers and things like that. So I'm just wondering how we solve that problem, because it doesn't seem like we have solved the problem, and I'm not saying that there's an obvious solution, because I think we would have implemented it if there was.
So I did pose that question to the committee.
Yeah.
And said, is there a better way? And thinking about before school.
I do it before
She
school.
might have it before school, but
Yeah.
that's, depending on your start time, that's difficult as well.
Right.
So, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, you never know.
We do before school and have
Right.
parents bring their children. That's
Right.
what we do.
Right.
So that way, parents can bring their children, and we have like a little area for children, so that way they can feel free.
So how about calling in? Because I go to a fair number of meetings that way now. Have we ever offered that as an option?
No, we haven't, but that's a great recommendation.
At our meetings at work, what about like GoToWebinar or Google Hangout?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Use those things.
Right. There are.
We have those things.
I mean, and I would continue to be aggressive about recruiting parents, because not only do you get good insight, but you actually get buy-in to the plan.
Yeah.
And you get buy-in, hopefully secondarily then, of the community. And so I would continue
that's a
to
great
sort
idea.
of thrash away at that one.
As we become technologically savvy, we have numerous offices, and
Right.
that's how we hold the meeting.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very easy to do, and I think that it's so significant that they have say, and they get factual information.
Right.
If they
right.
attend a meeting, they actually hear the facts
They may be
versus,
able to just shut the door in their office and take
Right.
the, half hour and attend.
Yeah.
I guess something to look into.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's easy to, I mean, it's really easy to do, it's not,
All right.
thank you.
Which brings up another issue. I think it'd be wise if we, in a future meeting, reviewed that legislation
I was just
in
going to say that.
public.
Thank you, Jerry.
So that we can understand exactly what's happening.
Thank you, Jerry.
It's part of the
Sort of
open
all in the
meeting law
same
stuff.
room,
Yeah.
and that the community and parents and, God forbid, the students understand as well. Legislation, oh, okay.
It's on the agenda for our next meeting.
Okay, well,
It's okay. Good
There you
job,
go.
Peter.
You're welcome.
That
All
is,
right.
that's a good point. I was just going to say the exact same thing, so thank you. I don't need my question.
anything else? All right, so item 14D, update on new ELA curriculum.
Actually, we're going to postpone that one and
Okay.
move to item E.
Item E is the employee handbook. Ms. Donnelly Roach?
Thank you. I may take the liberty of just answering that one question I left unanswered earlier. Ms. Farnworth asked about the additional child. That rate is $10 a day, and that will remain the same. So with the change rates that you just approved, a family participating 5 days a week will be able to save over $500 over the course of the school year in tuition. So, thank you for letting me digress there. In terms of the handbook you have in your packet, this is the 4th year that the Tiverton School Department has had a staff handbook. It was something I implemented when I realized we didn't have one a few years back. And it has all been vetted by our school committee's legal counsel already. It is traditionally posted on our employee resource website, and all employees review it and sign off that they have reviewed it. So there are only 2 changes. And on your table of contents, those are highlighted in red. Sorry you do not have the crossed out version. Really, there isn't anything crossed out. It's more that the 2 items have been expanded in terms of content. So on pages 8 and 9, our information on non-discrimination has been increased. Specifically, we've listed out the various titles in the laws that protect certain classes. And so you can see that on page 9. Again, just an expansion of the content to hopefully make it more clear. On page 18, we've also included proposed changes in the policy for technology used by staff, and that is noted as proposed. We feel that that's important. So I'm kind of sitting tight on this, hoping we get there, and right now we included the current policy as well as the proposed policy changes.
Is this something we have approved every year? I honestly don't recall.
I
Is that what is
don't
before us
believe this
now?
had ever been brought to you. It was approved through legal counsel.
Okay.
Again, it's information that we generally
That's why I don't
expect our
remember
staff
doing
to
it.
be
Okay.
aware of and know of. And
Ask
we,
the same question.
I wanted to make sure you were in the loop and show you the 2 changes,
Okay.
2 areas that have been expanded, rather.
All right. Okay. Any questions for any?
Non-discrimination on pages 8 and 9. And page 18 now includes the proposed changes in the policy for staff use of technology that we discussed earlier.
Okay. And you're not looking for our approval, you're just letting us know. Okay, thank you. Any questions?
I don't know, do we have to approve this like we do the school handbooks?
Well, I was mulling that over as I drove here.
I will look at the policy and let you know.
I just don't know where, oversight ends and
Well, it's
nuisance
it's
begins.
whatever the policy says, though, Jerry. If the policy says we have to approve it, well, that's the policy.
I don't know that there's a policy on employee handbooks
might
because, again, they
not.
haven't
That's what I'm saying.
existed
I don't
until
know if it
recently.
does. Is there?
I don't believe
I
so.
don't think so. I know
I
there's
just
one-
saw
I
a
know there's
void and
one
I
on the
tried to fill it.
student handbook. I don't think there is one on the staff.
If anything, it would come, there may be some policy, and I honestly do not know where
Well, so
we have
we'll-
to,
it's informational unless we find a policy that says we have
that's
to.
not right.
And I think
one.
it's good practice, too, as a form of support and information, so we're all on the
Yeah, no,
same
it's-
page about what employees are expected to
It's-
do.
I
And
don't know if we need to formally approve.
Right.
it.
That's my point. It's always good for us to be aware, but I'm not sure that, we don't manage the district. We give oversight.
That's right.
Unless there's a policy. Then we do.
All right, well,
Or we can change the policy, but we can't ignore the policy.
check and check. All right. 14F, I think, THS Handbook of Student Parent Approval. This we do approve, I think.
Yes, we do.
Yep, go ahead, Principal Ashley.
Yes. So each year we look at our handbook from really the prior year's day-to-day operations to see if there's areas for updating. And so after last year, we identified 3 areas based off of feedback and experience that we wanted to update. And those were bell schedule, our makeup procedure, and student parking. So in particular, in regards to bell schedule, you can see the rotating schedule on the handout. We looked at 2 main areas with our bell schedule. One was that HR stands for homeroom, that goes across there in the 3rd block down. You can see now it's 4 minutes, and that is truncated down from 10 minutes. And the reason for that was students and faculty actually came back pretty strongly as we got through the year that the 10 minutes was not really necessary to have all that time, and that they actually were preferring they liked having a short break there, but not the full 10 minutes. So we viewed it as an opportunity actually to build it into instructional time. So we added a minute to each of the class periods. So you'll see the 55 minutes there for the length of the periods. And in regards to the rotation, we adjusted the rotation a little bit. I'm not going to try to go through each letter. It looks like a mixed bag because, again, that was based off of teacher and student feedback around. We've been talking around career technical education and getting students opportunities to learn outside of Tiverton High School. And so this is our best option right now to have a kind of AM rotation of our periods and a PM, so that if a student can have a work-study opportunity in the afternoon, they could potentially have their required coursework in the morning and have some time in the afternoon. And again, that came back from the students and the teachers. So the other two areas in regards to the handbook were the makeup procedure, and we realized that in the quite rare instances that a student essentially purposely misses a class. It's very rare. We didn't have anything in the handbook around that if there was the required academic work that the teacher may assign a 0. Again, this is not an excused absence. We're not talking the students is in the nurse, but a student essentially is, cuts the class. Again, it's very rare. And actually, that's why it came up, because we did have an incident last year, and we realized in reviewing the handbook that there wasn't some clear language in there, and hence why we added the piece around may assign that a 0 for that infraction. And then the last area was around student parking. We have clear outlines and procedures around parking privileges, getting a sticker, going through possible consequences if they're not following the rules. But we didn't have a language in there around the personal property in their cars. And so we wanted to include that piece in there for clarification for the students and the families.
Okay, thank you.
Could you just expand a little bit on the second makeup bullet?
Yep.
Students may also receive a 0 for any assessments missed during an dismissal. Oh, apologies. I first saw the word excused, didn't see the on there. So in this case, it would be a student just leaving early without permission, okay.
Again, they're rare. We're happy to report that is not common.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the changes.
Second.
I have one question, which may sound kind of crazy, but maybe not. So looking at the rotating schedule, there are essentially 6 instructional periods or something else. I have 2 questions. What do they manage to accomplish in 4 minutes? I'm not advocating taking it away from them, but they go run someplace else for 4 minutes and then they run to their next class?
Yes. So I don't know if they run, but they.
Well, I can't.
No,
I went to
actually,
much bigger high school. I could never have made it back.
So, and the 4 minutes is the actual time. That does not include the passing time.
Okay.
So the actual, it typically takes about 2 or 3 minutes at most. So, and many of the homerooms are very close to the students' classrooms. So in reality, it's a little bit longer than 4 minutes. But that's an opportunity for announcements. So key information, and then displaying or sending out documents or surveys, the day-to-day operations. It gives students that opportunity. And it also, that homeroom teacher is the same person throughout the 4 years. And then once a month, we have Tiger Block. That's 30 minutes. That is a designated chunk of time as part of our social emotional work where we have a planned activity. And it's the same person that they're seeing every day. So establishing that relationship with an adult.
Okay. That's And then my other question, which I just put out to all of the professional educators, so the rotation of the blocks has never made any sense to me, unless you want to convert to base 6 or something like that. Why do we do this?
Why do we rotate, like at all?
Well, in this A, B, C, D, skip G, B, C, D, G, E, what's the educational rationale for that?
So I think I'm hearing you. One is why do we rotate, and another question is why do we drop a period?
No, I understand
Oh.
why you drop a
Oh,
period
okay.
because you only have 6 and you've got 7 letters.
Correct.
But
Yep. So why rotate?
yeah,
Yeah. So that looks at.
and you don't have to be,
Yeah. No, I'm just.
not trying to crucify you.
No. This idea of the current model in high schools versus decades ago when it was history, 8 o'clock every day, same time period.
Yes.
And that. Students are teenagers, and in the morning, sometimes we know they're a little bit different in the morning than they are in the afternoon. And so the idea there was that you're giving teachers and students the opportunity to have class at different times of the day. Now, actually, with this rotation, it actually gives us a little bit of flexibility around what's newer is trying to get students more involved with the community and learning outside of traditional classroom walls, and so that's an added component here.
So it's an homage to their circadian rhythm.
Well, we might be getting into start times then if you go there, but I'd say, yes. So that there's a piece of that, and that ultimately, I'm not sure the perfect high school schedule exists, to be honest, unless we're really going to change things. But it's our best compromise to meet all the demands.
So I can't be the only parent who's ever thought, why the heck are we doing this?
Sure. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So, is there actual data that supports this as a meaningful intervention?
I'm not aware of any data. I think it's considered best practice. I know at the middle school, Ms. Craven and I discussed this, and certainly a different age student, and there we knew we had to make some significant changes. To Mr. Ashley's point, at the high school level, kids are a little older and they display a little differently from time to time. Yes, I wouldn't say it's data-based. I think it's just a practice that's been considered to work.
So if there's no data, we call it best practice.
Correct.
Well, I would just add to that. It was, I guess, now almost 2 years ago when we were really looking at our schedule and we had students and faculty. We threw out on the table about rotation or not.
Yeah.
And there was pretty strong voice across the board to keep some kind of a rotation. They did not want to lose that.
I can see how
Right.
difficult it would be from a student standpoint, even, facing down, I don't know, English class every single morning at 7:30, just forget it, I'm quitting. Or have their favorite class at the end of the day, and you got to get through it every day. Might be difficult.
Okay, it's not my school. So. All right. So did we vote? There's a motion to approve.
I seconded.
Any other discussion after my rant? All those in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Ashley. Which I believe brings us to announcements, schedule, and meeting reports. So Mrs. Black wanted to report on the Tiverton FY20 budget town council workshop. It wasn't the town, right? It was the town council.
Yes, it was a workshop on September 30th, and so it was stated a discussion of a long-term financial plan, and Mrs. DeMedeiros and Nancy Driggs were absent, and so it was mostly Mr. Coulter and Mr. Katz, and they talked about goals and items to be included and stakeholders and terms. But it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, because when we make a 5-year plan, it's not what I saw, what they passed out. So I just wanted to make sure that you all got a copy of this, that the plan that they did pass out, because again, we were included in it, and that's why I wanted to put it on the agenda. Okay. So, there were no votes taken or anything, it was just a workshop. Okay, but I just wanted you all to have a copy of it.
Well, we've seen some of these grant
We've seen some of them
diagrams
before, that's why,
before,
yeah.
In a
Yeah.
different guise, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, well.
And it
thanks
wasn't
for-
like anything the whole council voted on and put forward or anything like that.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you for the update and for your devotion to continuing to attend those meetings.
Thank you.
You sure you weren't assigned penance? Okay. So we have our meetings on the 22nd and the 12th. We have some agenda items up for the 22nd already. Any other announcements?
I do want to say I really quickly went through the policies while we were sitting here.
Fast.
And, well, I can go through them quick. While
noticed.
it doesn't seem that we have anything that requires us to approve it, I do notice, for instance, like there is FMLA in here, but we have a policy on FMLA. So I think the policy subcommittee, this will be a great opportunity for us to maybe go through and maybe eliminate some that have already been covered. So that'll be just something for the policy subcommittee. You know, I'm always of the opinion, the fewer policies you have to look up and remember, probably the better. So
Okay.
that'd be great.
Well, and they certainly should conform with each other.
Exactly, yeah, so now that,
I know that before the last school committee meeting, we had a dry run of a presentation. I just wanted to commend Megan McFarlane and Hallie Azevedo and Denise Truber, who presented representing Tiverton schools this past weekend. And I have a note from their co-presenter, who is the consultant we had working with us on next generation science standards from Southern Virginia University. She mentions that they did an incredible presentation. The attendees were very engaged and willing to ask questions, evidence of a stimulating presentation, and that it's been a true pleasure working with these teachers. Their understanding of next generation science has really rocketed in the past few years, a testament to their dedication and willingness to continually develop their practice.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh, great.
Very nice.
All right, I'm going to
make a motion to go back into executive session, continue our meeting.
Previously cited
Yep.
statute.
Yep.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
All right, thank you.